My name's Alisha Esmail, and I'm the founder and CEO of Road Coffee. To tell you the background about Road Coffee, I have to tell you a little bit about my background. So my background actually starts in international development, where I spent about 6.5 years working overseas in places like Haiti, South Africa, Jordan, Nepal, Panama. It was my dream job at the time. I was in charge of executing clean water projects, food security projects, primary healthcare clinics, getting dentists to remote villages in places like Haiti. Though I was always really passionate about business and entrepreneurship, especially when it came to coffee. And I wasn't sure how this world would all come together for me. But while I was overseas for months at a time, what I would do is spend time just getting to know coffee farmers and their families. I'd get to know how the supply chain worked from their side of the world. And I started to learn how coffee grew on a tree and how it was processed and dried. And then the seed is actually green. And then that's where we start the roasting process. And long story short, I started to see how these coffee farmers were being taken advantage of by unnecessary middlemen. And I thought that was pretty uncool since, there's about 30 million coffee farmers in the world, and about 90% of them still don't have access to basic needs to this day. And so I do that. Then I come home to the West, where I was born and raised in Saskatchewan, and the first thing I would do is spend $5 on a coffee in the airport. Eventually, I did that enough times that I wanted to try and move home and do something about it. And that's why I started Road Coffee. Road Coffee is a company that works directly with coffee farmers around the world. We have 3 fully female supply chains, and we work with other farmers in places like Kenya, Myanmar, Brazil, Colombia, and of course, one of our favorite relationships with SIEC, who's the first women care certified farm in the world. What we do is we work with these farmers. Sometimes we offer them microloans because you might not know this, but coffee farmers sometimes pay between 35 and 70% in interest rates. Imagine that, going to get a bank loan to start your company or a mortgage at 70%. So we offer small loans at just 7% to help them buy fertilizer or equipment, whatever they need to grow their business and be able to provide for their families. Then what we do is we bring that coffee in here, right here in Saskatchewan. We roast, package, and label, and then we supply cafes and restaurants. We have an amazing corporate program, and we sell retail to grocery and through e-commerce. Getting into international development for me was not something I feel like it chose. It kind of chose me. My plan was actually to go to Vancouver Film School, and I wanted to become a director. Through some unfortunate circumstances, with my mom passing away, my senior year of high school, I ended up going into development work. And I think it had to do with when I was a little kid, having 2 parents born in Tanzania, Africa, and being first generation Canadian. My parents always talked to us about how we should be really grateful for what we have, and how there's, people back home where they grew up that don't have 3 meals a day or even access to clean water. And so from a young age, as a toddler, I would really wrestle with these thoughts like, how can people not have clean water? And so I think that was already instilled in me at a young age, and then ended up getting into development work because of that. A typical workday doesn't really exist in my world. Especially as a founder, I feel like I'm often pulled in lots of directions. Some of my founder friends, I hear them often saying the same thing. So for me, it's a bit of our morning stand-up. We meet as a team, and from there, we kind of go tackle what we need to do. And so for me, sometimes that's marketing, sometimes that's sales, sometimes it's training team members. Sometimes it's even getting to travel to visit some of our coffee farmers. I like to think of entrepreneurship kind of like training for a sport. It's incredibly challenging. It comes with a lot of ups and downs. It's a never-ending roller coaster, and you need to have an extraordinary amount of perseverance. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many times I've almost walked away from my company, and usually just before I find really big breakthroughs. And so, how to know if you're an entrepreneur? I would say try different things. Test it in a small way before, you know, betting the farm on it. How do we face challenges and mistakes that happen? Well, one, I would say you have to get used to making mistakes. Even today, we had a couple mistakes with our team, and the way we handled it was just looking at what happened, what we need to solve for it, and what can we do to learn so it doesn't happen again. As for challenges, sometimes they're not as straightforward. Especially being a founder, you're dealt with different curveballs daily. That's where that perseverance comes back in. And it's really just understanding what that specific challenge is and how you need to solve for it, because what worked in one situation or in the past might not work now. And so I'd say it comes back to listening, understanding your clients, your stakeholders, or your team members' needs, and responding to those needs. I love probably the people the most. I know that's a bit cliche, it's what everyone says, but I have the opportunity to work with incredible people around the world from different cultures and organizations. And even lately, with creating a fully indigenous supply chain, has been an incredible opportunity to just learn and grow. And if you're learning and growing every day, I would count that as a win. I also really love brand building and creating something out of nothing. I think that's the key to entrepreneurship, is to be able to think of an idea, see it in your mind, and then bring it into reality. So those are the things that really get me out of bed in the morning. If you're starting a business, I would say start with the cupcake theory. I started with that before I even knew what the cupcake theory is. That's where you want to start small and test an idea before you bake the whole cake. And I'm a big dreamer, and so oftentimes I want to go bake the whole cake before knowing if my idea is going to work, if people even want it. What's the point of having a product if people don't want it? And wasting people's time and your money. And so for us, that was our coffee cart. Before we roasted any coffee, before I bought my first roaster, we started with a small coffee cart and we did events to see if people even wanted to enjoy our coffee. Thinking about what you want to do with your life can often be a scary topic. And yeah, I said entrepreneurship's tough, but I don't want you to let fear drive your life either. Making decisions that are right for you is really important, whether that's going into the arts or becoming a doctor, being a stay-at-home parent, or being an entrepreneur. You need to figure out what makes you tick. And the best way to do that is just by trying different things, putting yourself out there and getting connected with other people. And most of all, just don't be afraid to fail.